Chapter 169. Outside the fire domain, there were hundreds of knights protecting Ji Ziyue. Yi Fan knew that Hua Yunfei would not act rashly and leave behind any flaws. Ji Ziyue stood quietly in front of the grave like a fairy from the heavens. She was like a thin cloud covering the bright moon, like a gentle breeze caressing the jade flowers, all in one body. A gentle breeze blew, and scarlet flames surged in the first level of the fire domain. At this moment, the golden lake between Yi Fan's eyebrows was as deep as an abyss. His divine sense came out and condensed into a thin thread. He said, "The hemp-robed man who chased you back then listens to Hua Yunfei." After sending the message, Yi Fan rushed into the depths of the fire domain. He believed that if Ji Ziyue was on guard, it would be difficult for the other party to take advantage of her. He went straight to the 7th level of the fire domain and took out his cauldron to collect the 5 colored flames. The terrifying fire energy flowed into the cauldron like a stream or river. He was about to leave, so he wanted to prepare some life-saving measures. He didn't refine the cauldron, just put it in. Even if he put it in the sea of reincarnation, it would not cause him any harm. In the end, the 5 colored flames filled the cauldron completely. There was no more space left. The myriad source chi sealed the cauldron and Yi Fan stored it in his body. When he was far away from the fiery domain, Yi Fan took a deep look before rushing towards the north. A few days later, Yi Fan received a piece of news that made him pleasantly surprised. Now, the northern region was in constant turmoil because of the origin. Many cultivators in the southern region wanted to try their luck. The Yaoguang Holy Land and the Ji family had already sent their experts to the northern region half a year ago. They stood in the world and were unfathomable. Once the realm gate opened, they could directly cross to the northern region. However, it was more troublesome for loose cultivators. They would have to fly for at least a few years to get to the northern region. Thus, most people could only think of other ways. For example, they could pay a high price and borrow the way to the northern region. Half a month later, Yi Fan arrived at the Xiaoyao sect. Legend had it that this place was formed by the convergence of 2 dragon veins. There were many mountain peaks that looked like dragon bones. There were many strange trees and grass, majestic and beautiful. In this area, it was a superpower second only to the Holy Land, on par with the Supreme Mystery Sect. Now that it had entered its heyday, the sect had many experts. Yi Fan came here to smuggle in. According to what he knew, as long as he paid a high price, he could use their space gate to cross the void. Thousands of people were waiting outside the mountain gate. "Brother, you're so young, yet you want to go to the northern region to try your luck?" A burly man with a full beard asked. "Yes, I want to give it a try," Yi Fan replied. "The journey is long, and the northern region is full of dangers. It's best if you don't take risks at such a young age." An elder who was as thin as firewood advised. There were men and women among them, and it was hard to tell their cultivation levels. The mountain gate opened wide and a few cultivators walked out. The one in the lead was a middle-aged man with a sallow complexion and an erratic gait. "I say, everyone, you're really lucky. This might be the last time." Because, after the sect master came out of seclusion and found out about all this, he was very unhappy. The crowd suddenly burst into discussion. Many people were very glad. The crowd stepped forward one after another. Without needing the yellow-faced man to say anything, they all presented their treasures. It was impossible to cross the void without paying a high price. A weapon of a life spring stage cultivator, how can you take it out? The yellow-faced man glanced at the first cultivator with disdain and directly rejected the first cultivator. "Senior, please make an exception." The cultivator pleaded again and again. "This is a weapon I've refined for more than 10 years. It's already the most precious item I have on me. It's useless even if you've refined it for 100 years. Not to mention you, even if it's a weapon refined by a Nirvana realm cultivator, if it's an ordinary item, we won't accept it either." The yellow-faced man showed a look of disdain. The cultivator was very unwilling, but he didn't dare to say anything more and left unhappily. The second cultivator presented a bronze mirror. It was full of ancient aura, but there were some flaws. There were 3 cracks on it. We don't accept this kind of inferior item. This is a weapon refined by a peak Taoist palace cultivator. It's extremely powerful. The cultivator carefully explained. No matter how good a weapon is, it's useless if there's a fatal crack. Even if it's nurtured for 100 years, it won't recover. The yellow-faced man showed an impatient expression. He waved his hand and let the cultivator leave. 1 crimson moon fruit. The 3rd cultivator came forward and presented a jade box. After opening it, there was a bright red fruit in the shape of a crescent moon. It was crystal clear and had a fragrant aroma. The yellow-faced man's eyes showed a hint of greed. He closed the jade box and said, "A rare spirit fruit, you can pass. 1 purple copper essence." After a few people failed, the 9th person presented a piece of purple copper with spots of light shining on it. It really is purple copper essence. A legend who has cultivated to the 3rd secret realm needs this kind of material the most. You can pass. The yellow-faced man's eyes were burning with passion. He reluctantly handed the copper essence to the person next to him and let the cultivator pass. If one wanted to pass here, they had to pay a great price. Most of the treasures and spirit medicines offered were not accepted. It's not like we can go straight to the north region, but they still have to pay such a high price. The people who couldn't pass were very dissatisfied and discussed on the side. Apart from the Holy Lands, no other sect could directly cross to the north region. Even so, there were still many wandering cultivators who came here to pass. When it was Yifan's turn, he took out a piece of godly metal that looked like white jade. It was only the size of a longan fruit. The yellow-faced man immediately jumped up in shock. His eyes were filled with greed as he said with a trembling voice, could this be, the legendary godly metal? The small piece of metal was as white as jade, attracting many people's attention. The yellow-faced man held it in his hand and looked at it repeatedly. In the end, he sighed and said, "What a pity, it's been destroyed. The spirit is gone. What a waste. Senior, is this metal valuable enough?" Yifan asked. This was the godly metal that Crow Daoist priest had destroyed. Even though he didn't enter the 8th level of the fire domain, he took out his own cauldron, and with great effort, he took out the snow-white metal. After careful observation, he felt that it was indeed destroyed. The essence inside was almost dried up, and it was no longer an exceptional treasure. "Do you still have this kind of godly metal?" The yellow-faced man asked Yifan. Yifan shook his head and said, "How could I have this kind of godly metal? I obtained this by chance in an ancient cave." The yellow-faced man felt that it was a great pity. His waxy yellow face was gloomy and uncertain as he said, "Even though it's destroyed, it's still a treasure. If it's refined by a renowned elder, it can improve the quality. You pass." An hour later, it was completely over. Out of more than 1,000 wandering cultivators, only 400 or so were left. They all paid a sky-high price. "Come back here in 3 days. We won't wait for you later." The yellow-faced man had them leave their mark. After saying this, he stood up and walked towards the mountain gate. Crossing the void wasn't an easy task. One had to carefully engrave Tao patterns without the slightest flaw. Otherwise, there might be an accident. With so many wandering cultivators here, the carefree sect didn't dare to be careless. Every time, they would spend several days preparing. "Brother Huang, how have you been?" A few people descended from the sky. The yellow-faced man was surnamed Huang, which matched his complexion quite well. He turned around and smiled, "So it's the elites of the Ji clan. Are you here to check again?" "How are we elites?" "We're just running errands." One of the youths walked up and said, "We're following orders. We have no choice." The yellow-faced man was full of smiles and said politely, "This time, everyone who wants to cross the void is here. There are definitely no great demons. If you don't believe me, come and see for yourself." During these past few months, the Ji clan had swept through the southern region in anger. They couldn't catch the Peacock King and the Crow Daoist, so they had already killed dozens of great demons. "Brother Huang, don't misunderstand. We're just taking a stroll. Even the G clan didn't want to offend a great power like the carefree sect. The youths from the G clan glanced over the hundreds of people and didn't find any demonic energy. They clasped their hands and left. Yi Fan was already prepared to fight. Seeing this, he let out a sigh of relief. Then, the crowd dispersed. Yi Fan didn't walk very fast, he didn't want to meet the people from the G clan. "Friend, please wait." Just as he was 10 miles away, he heard a voice from behind. The yellow-faced man was chasing after him with a fake smile on his face. "What's the matter, senior?" Yi Fan asked without batting an eyelid. "Friend, you really don't have those mutton-fat jade-like metal pieces?" The yellow-faced man stared at him. "I only found one piece in the ancient cave." "You're right. With your cultivation level, you can't get such a rare item." The yellow-faced man nodded and said, "Take me to that cave." Yi Fan instantly frowned and said, "That cave is too far away. Even if I fly for a few days, I won't be able to get there." "I can't do that." The yellow-faced man's face darkened. He said, "I'm just asking you to lead the way. Don't you want to go to the northern region?" This was a despicable person who didn't even try to hide his threat. "In 3 days, we're going to cross the space. If I take you there, I'll definitely miss the opportunity." Yi Fan calmly replied. "If you take me there, there'll be another chance." Yi Fan despised him. This was obviously the last chance, this guy was really shameless. Seeing that Yi Fan didn't say anything, the yellow-faced man's face darkened. He said, "That kind of godly metal is very important to me. You have to take me there today. I really can't split myself up." Yi Fan refused. "You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." The yellow-faced man said coldly, "Don't force me to fight." Yi Fan had been hiding his divine power and only showed it at the Life Spring realm. He sensed that the other should be at the peak of the Nirvana realm. He nodded and said, "Okay, I'll lead the way." Then he flew forward. The yellow-faced man put away his murderous intent and nodded in satisfaction. He revealed a fake smile and said, "That's right. I won't treat you badly." Seeing that there was no one around, Yi Fan flew forward for another 10 miles and stood in the air. "Why did you stop?" The yellow-faced man's expression was unfriendly and his murderous intent surfaced again. "To send you on your way," Yi Fan answered. The incomplete form of the Grand Palm of the Void appeared. The black hand covered the space and came crashing down. Pow! The yellow-faced man was smashed into pieces in the air. He didn't even have the chance to make a sound. Yi Fan didn't want to waste time with such a despicable person. He would just kill him with one slap. In the distant sky, many people's expressions changed. They were the young disciples of the G clan who had left not long ago. They immediately exclaimed, "The fluctuation of the Grand Palm of the Void. No, it's not the authentic Grand Palm of the Void. The power is chaotic." 3 days later, Yi Fan came back to the Xiaoyao sect and entered the sect with hundreds of people. 2 dragon veins intersected. Strange peaks stood side by side. It was majestic and beautiful. Hundreds of people were led into a valley. It was a spacious place and there was a huge altar. It was the place to open the space gate. "Everyone, I wish you all a safe journey," an elder of the Xiaoyao sect said loudly. Hundreds of people climbed onto the altar and were about to open the space gate and cross the sky. Yi Fan let out a long sigh. He was finally going to leave the southern mountain range and get rid of all his troubles. "Wait!" At this moment, a shout came from outside the Xiaoyao sect. Dozens of people quickly flew over. The space gate didn't open, so they arrived in the blink of an eye. Most of them were old people. They all looked hale and hearty and emitted an aura that made people's hearts pound. Their life force was as strong as the ocean. They were definitely not ordinary experts. Next to them were a few elders of the Xiaoyao sect. They flew over together. "Everyone, please forgive us." These people were very polite and didn't put on airs. They clasped their hands to everyone and apologized to the elders of the Xiaoyao sect. Yi Fan's face turned green. The people of the Ji clan had arrived. There were more than 20 old people. He even saw someone he knew, Ji Hui. Of course, what shocked Yi Fan the most was the old man in the middle. He looked as empty as an abyss and as deep as the ocean. He was unfathomable. Don't tell me he's an important person? Yi Fan had a bad feeling. Are you Senior Ji Changkong? Asked a famous elder of the Xiaoyao sect. He looked at the old man in the middle of the Ji clan with a confused expression. That's me. The people of the Xiaoyao sect were shocked. One of them said, I heard that Senior Ji Changkong has been in seclusion for dozens of years. I didn't expect you to come out again and visit the Xiaoyao sect. I'll go report to the sect leader. The old man in the middle apologized again and explained, there's no need for that. We'll leave immediately. The Ji clan had found traces of the Crow Daoist. Not only did the Ji clan's holy leader personally come out, but they also sent 6 supreme elders to kill the old Daoist. Ji Changkong was one of the grand elders. When they passed by this place, they received a report that an unknown cultivator was using the incomplete Grand Void Palm imprint. This made the people of the Ji clan have a bad feeling. They suspected that Yi Fan had taught the Great Void Palm to the Peacock King and the other Yao clan cultivators. When they heard this, they stopped to take a look. When the Xiaoyao sect opened the space gate, they immediately thought of many things and rushed over. We're just going to take a look. We'll leave immediately. The supreme elder of the Ji clan's gaze was like lightning as he personally scanned the crowd. Yi Fan cursed in his heart. How was he going to escape from the Xiaoyao sect? There were restrictions everywhere, and the people of the Ji clan were blocking the way. His heart turned cold. Chapter 170. Ji Hui's eyes swept over the cultivators. When she saw Yi Fan, she screamed in fear, It's you, how is this possible? You damned old woman, how can your eyes be so sharp? Yi Fan walked out helplessly. He was trapped in the carefree school. You're still alive? Ji Hui's face was full of disbelief. You're not dead yet, how could I have fallen? Yi Fan was unwilling to accept this. He had survived so many disasters, avoided so many dangers, and in the end, just as he was about to leave, he encountered a great tragedy. Motherf *Ker, I've kowtowed 99 times, only this last one is left. How did I meet you? Yi Fan asked the heavens. It's him, it's that little thief. How surprising, he fell into the 6th realm of fire and didn't burn to death. Now he's alive and kicking. The elders of the Ji clan were astonished. They didn't think they would see Yi Fan again. A young man who they thought had turned to ashes a long time ago was alive and kicking before them. Little bastard, how did you survive? Ji Hui's eyes were filled with killing intent. You shameless old thing, call me young master and I'll tell you. Yi Fan didn't have anything to be afraid of anymore. Everyone in the surroundings knew Yi Fan's identity, and they all revealed strange expressions. Half a year ago, Yi Fan's name spread across the entire region. He shouted and told the elders of the Ji clan to scram. He became the public enemy of the Ji clan and they chased him everywhere. But in the end, they couldn't kill him and only chased him into the fire realm. Who would have thought that after half a year, he would come back alive and kicking? This was a slap in the Ji clan's face. Not only did they fail to kill the Peacock King, but they also failed to kill a young man like him. How could the Ji clan accept this? Everyone was in an uproar. They were all tongue-tied. Crash. The hundreds of cultivators on the altar retreated, leaving only Yi Fan standing there. He couldn't cross the sky anymore. The people of the Xiaoyao sect looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what to do. One of them hurried to report to the sect leader and the grand elder. The faces of everyone from the Ji clan darkened. Little bastard, you're really lucky. Even the fire realm can't take your life. Ji Hui pressed forward, and the others surrounded him. There was no way they would let him leave. You greedy and snobbish old man. Yi Fan pondered in his heart. He would not give up until the last moment. No wonder Purple Moon isn't angry these days. She must know that you're not dead. Ji Hui's expression became more unsightly. Do you want to know why I didn't die? Yi Fan scanned the crowd. Everyone looked at him. Even the great elder of the Ji family was no exception. He had only become the great elder of the Ji family 30 years ago. Even he had to be extra careful when entering the 6th layer of the fire realm. I was saved by a powerful being from the fire field. He was once taught by my crazy old brother, Yi Fan boasted shamelessly. He did not feel embarrassed at all. Many people knew that he practiced the crazy old man's movement technique. The people of the Ji family understood that he wanted to use the crazy old man's name to save his life. Little bastard, no matter who you mention, it's useless. Ji Hui's expression was cold. You're an old man who's completely crazy. Even if you're an immortal, what can you do? Today, I'll cut you into pieces. Everyone, you heard her. She's insulting the last remaining crazy old man in the heavenly Jade Holy Land. Yi Fan shouted. The great elder of the Ji family seemed to be worried. He glanced at Ji Hui and said, "Don't talk nonsense. He's already crazy. What can he do to us? Today, we'll kill this little bastard, search his soul, and find that movement technique. Our Ji family will have another supreme secret technique," Ji Hui muttered to herself. Yi Fan was very close to her. The others couldn't hear, but he did. He said, "Not only did you bite the hand that fed you, you even want to steal my secret technique. You old woman, you're really shameless. Little bastard." Ji Hui's expression was livid. She slapped forward. Yi Fan didn't take out his cauldron. If he exposed himself too early, he wouldn't have any hope. Swoosh. No matter how fast he was, there was no way he could evade the giant hand that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. There was no way to avoid it. Bang! The big hand slapped down, and the whole family sent him flying. If it weren't for his recent increase in cultivation and his terrifying physique, he would have been smashed to pieces. Little bastard, I won't kill you. I still need the crazy old man's supreme movement technique. I'll make you wish you were dead. Ji Hui's expression was cold. Her voice was so weak that other cultivators couldn't hear her. Bang! Ji Hui attacked again. Her giant hand covered the sky and pressed down. Yi Fan was still enduring. He didn't take out his cauldron and just dodged. Little bastard, I'm going to take care of you. Ji Hui smiled coldly and said, "Are you going to run again? Don't hurt his body." Just at this moment, the Ji family's supreme elder, Ji Changkong, stopped Ji Hui and said, "How you told me before that this child's physique is very special. Don't destroy him. Let me take a closer look." Ji Changkong was like a mountain, like an abyss. He was unfathomable. He stretched out his hand and pulled Yi Fan over. It was like picking a flower or a leaf. Yi Fan felt a chill in his heart. He didn't act rashly and continued to wait. Ji Changkong didn't restrain Yi Fan. Someone as strong as him facing a Nirvana realm cultivator was like looking down on an ant. There was no need for him to care. He directly probed Yi Fan's sea of bitterness. The instant he touched it, his expression changed. He cried out, "How is this possible?" Everyone in the surroundings, be it the people of the Ji family, the legendary figures of the Xiaoyao sect, or the cultivators preparing to cross the void, all revealed shocked expressions as they looked at Ji Changkong and Yi Fan. What kind of physique could make the Ji family's supreme elder lose his composure like this? Everyone was shocked and wanted to know. This little bastard is really a monster. Ji Changkong was extremely shocked. His face was filled with shock. He said, "If we had offended this evil creature before the desolate antiquity, our Ji family would have been in big trouble. However, now, he won't be able to do anything." "What kind of physique does he have?" a legendary figure of the Ji family asked. "It is the sacred body of the desolate antiquity recorded in the ancient books. Countless years ago, this physique was unparalleled. No one in the world could match it. Even the ancient desolate tower had to suppress it for many years before it could kill it. Ji Changkong sighed and said, I didn't expect this evil creature to have such a physique. This is really shocking. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect Yi Fan to have such a physique. However, everyone quickly understood. The sacred body was already a thing of the past. Now, it was just another name for a trash physique. The Eastern desolate divine body had risen. This evil creature has exceeded my expectations. The Ji family's supreme elder revealed a strange expression. He said, he was able to cultivate to the Permitha realm. He is really not simple. If we take his origin energy back, we should be able to raise Hao Yue's divine body to the next level. Ji Changkong kept calling him evil creature, causing Yi Fan to feel angry in his heart. He really wanted to slap Ji Changkong's old face. The expressions of the surrounding people changed. Only the people of the Ji family rejoiced. This evil creature's physical body is so strong. This is really shocking. After Ji Changkong checked Yi Fan's physique, his face was filled with shock. He said, there seems to be a treasure in his sea of reincarnation. Let me see what it is. Yi Fan smiled coldly in his heart. He did not move, allowing this old antique to do whatever he wanted. Ji Changkong stretched out his 5 fingers like a dragon claw. Instantly, there was a burst of light, releasing a strange mighty force that could not be resisted. Yi Fan did not resist. Instead, he cooperated and took out the cauldron. The small cauldron silently appeared in the air. Ji Changkong grabbed it and cried out involuntarily. He was even more shocked than before. Mist shrouded the cauldron. Heaven and earth flowed and sealed the mouth of the cauldron. Myriad source chi. No, it's the myriad source chi's origin root. Even someone as powerful as him lost control of his mind. This kind of legendary sacred object had always only appeared in ancient myths and legends. It made him excited to the extreme. Unexpectedly, this evil creature actually obtained a sacred item. Ha! Ji Changkong could not control his emotions. He faced the sky and laughed loudly. The surrounding people were deeply shocked. They all stared at the cauldron. The many legendary figures of the Ji clan surrounded it and sized it up together. All of them wanted to touch it personally. Ji Changkong wanted to take a closer look at this cauldron. He wanted the myriad source chi to flow and not block the mouth of the cauldron. At this moment, Yi Fan also moved. He activated the cauldron and removed the myriad source chi seal. Boom! Just at this moment, a tsunami-like sound resounded. Boundless piercing light drowned out the place. A blazing temperature caused the souls of the cultivators in the distance to tremble. They all retreated in shock. Even so, there were still some cultivators who were turned into ashes. At this moment, the center of the place was resplendent. A 5-colored light soared into the sky. It was like the door to the celestial realm had been opened. 5-colored clouds surged and enveloped the entire place. This was an unimaginably horrifying energy. The 5-colored light became the only thing in the world, burning fiercely. Yi Fan had collected an unknown amount of fire energy in the 7th layer of the fire domain. The cauldron could be big or small. It could contain a large stone forest. The size of the space was astounding. At this moment, it was filled with 5-colored flames. Not a single bit of space was wasted. Releasing all the flames was simply a huge disaster. One had to know that this was a horrifying fire energy that could even burn major characters to death. The Ji clan's supreme elder, Ji Changkong, let out a miserable shriek. He turned into a flaming person. He soared into the sky and struggled continuously. More than 10 of the Ji clan's legendary figures were turned into ashes on the spot. They could not even struggle. I want to play big. Yi Fan's eyes released a divine radiance. He grabbed the pristine jade bottle and poured the deity spring water into his mouth. He frantically activated the cauldron and attacked Ji Changkong with the boundless raging flames. Bang! The G clan's important character could block the attack of the cauldron, but he could not block the raging flames. The 5 colored flames were gathered by the cauldron and concentrated on him, completely submerging him. He had only been the G clan's supreme elder for 30 years. It could be said that he was the weakest important character in the G clan. The purple flames of the 6th layer of the fire domain could already threaten the life and death of important characters. Yi Fan saw with his own eyes that there were many human-shaped ashes there. There was no need to even mention the flames of the 7th layer. They were definitely fatal. Unfortunately, after Ji Changkong was enveloped by the 5 colored flames, even someone as strong as him let out a heart-wrenching cry. It was impossible to extinguish the flames. His divine power was completely ignited. His entire body was covered in flames. Every inch of his skin was charred. His bones were all burned and his soul was extinguished. Ah! He let out a mournful howl and said, "This is the legendary 5 elemental true fire." Hearing this name, many of the cultivators in the distance shivered. The scariness of the 5 elemental true fire was unimaginable. As long as one was within the range of the 5 elements, they would be burned to ashes. There was no way to extinguish it. There was no way to resist it. Ah! Ji Changkong turned into a piece of charcoal and fell to the ground, rolling continuously. As for the other famous figures of the Ji clan, most of them turned into ashes. Only a few people were further away and escaped this calamity. There were even a few people who had half their bodies burned. The 5 elemental true fire could not extinguish them. In order to survive, they clenched their teeth and cut off half of their bodies, rolling in the distance. Everyone was horrified. This was too horrifying. At the same time, they were incomparably shocked. Yi Fan was just a youth and his cultivation was not that terrifying. He actually wanted to burn the Ji clan's supreme elder alive. This would definitely shake the entire southern region. Yi Fan shouted loudly, "First there was the Peacock King, then there was the Crow Daoist. Today, I will join in as well." He drank large mouthfuls of divine spring water and continuously activated the cauldron. All the flames gathered towards Ji Changkong. Not far away, the lower half of Ji Hui's body was completely charred. She clenched her teeth and cut it off. Her divine power was almost completely burned away, but she managed to preserve her life. "You damned old hag, to think that you would have such a day." Yi Fan was about to go forward. The other famous figures of the Ji clan who had escaped this calamity hurriedly made a move and pulled Ji Hui far away. At the same time, a loud shout came from the distant sky, "Who dares to cause trouble in my Xiaoyao sect?" The Xiaoyao sect leader and supreme elder were alarmed. Yi Fan looked at Ji Changkong and saw that he had turned into charcoal. Even his soul was about to be extinguished. He knew that even if an immortal descended, he would not be able to save this important figure. He used a peerless footwork and arrived in front of the altar in an instant. He placed a large amount of origin energy into the altar. The Tao patterns were already carved. As long as there was energy from the origin energy, it would open. Yi Fan soared into the sky and stood at the center of the altar. Boundless energy waves spread out and divine light rushed into the sky. The realm gate opened and the space was torn apart. Yi Fan rushed in and began to cross the empty space. When the sect leader of the Unfettered Society arrived and saw what was happening, his mind began to spin. This was a monumental event. He felt a headache coming on. More than 10 famous figures of the Ji clan had been burned to ashes. An important figure had been burned alive. This would definitely shock the southern domain. The Ji clan would definitely go crazy. In less than a year, 3 supreme elders had died. The southern domain would definitely be in a state of shock. "Quick, destroy the altar. We cannot let him escape," someone shouted. Immediately, rays of light rushed towards the altar. With a loud rumble, the altar collapsed and turned into dust. The empty space was destroyed, but no one fell out. "We delayed for a while. I'm afraid he's already tens of thousands of miles away. The empty space is destroyed. With his cultivation, he will most likely be turned into dust. Yi Fan was prepared. The moment he stepped into the empty space, he entered his cauldron. He had expected this to happen. Therefore, when the empty space was destroyed, he was safe and sound inside the cauldron made from the origin energy of all living beings. This despicable little bastard. The surviving legendary figures of the Ji clan raised their heads to the sky and shouted. This matter would definitely shake the southern domain and spread throughout the world. Without a doubt, a storm was brewing. Chapter 171. Traveling through space was very dangerous. Once an accident happened, one's body could be crushed to pieces. If Yi Fan hadn't been prepared, it would have been difficult for him to escape. He hid inside the cauldron. The moment the space collapsed, his heart palpitated. This destructive power was like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, like snow burying flowers. For life, this was an unstoppable force. Space was annihilated and the physical body couldn't resist it. It destroyed everything and destroyed endless life force. It was as if it wanted to push the world back to its starting point. The source energy of all things flowed. The cauldron didn't move at all. In this destructive wave, the cauldron was like a boat carrying Yi Fan. It smashed through a precipice and stopped. When the dust settled and the world became clear again, Yi Fan escaped from the cauldron. Before him was a scene of desolation. The mountains had been destroyed and turned into scorched earth. All life was gone and nothing was left. As expected, you are ruthless. You didn't hesitate to destroy the realm gate. You want me to disappear in space. Then, Yi Fan raised his head and laughed. The depression of the past half a year was swept away. He had been chased by the Ji family until he had nowhere to go and nowhere to go. He hid in the fire area and didn't dare to show his face. Now that he had attacked, all his anger had been resolved. He had burned an important figure alive. Even he couldn't believe it. Turning more than 10 famous figures into ashes was like a dream. Even if the Ji family finds me, I won't be able to escape death. It was worth it. Speaking of this, Yi Fan calmed down and said, I won't die. I have to find a way to escape this area. He didn't dare to tarry. He turned into a shadow and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The commotion here was too big and would definitely attract attention. It was best to leave as soon as possible. Yi Fan felt that it would be difficult to leave the southern region. Right now, there was no way to go to the northern region. He wanted to go in the opposite direction and head south. The southern region was vast and had countless countries. The Ji family, Taixien, Yaoguang, and Xiaoyao were only a small part of this area. If one went further south, it was said that there were 1 or 2 holy lands. Even though they were all in the southern region, the distance was too far. If one flew, it would take around half a year to arrive. One could imagine how vast the southern region was, not to mention the entire eastern wilderness. If there were no realm gates to send messages, and if they couldn't travel through the void, there would be no way for them to communicate with each other. They would all be separated, and it would be difficult for them to interact. Soon, Yi Fan found out that he was now 30,000 miles away from the Xiaoyao sect. He had traveled such a great distance in just a few minutes, which shocked him. However, what surprised him the most was that he had arrived at the area where the Yaoguang Holy Land was located, which was more than 1,000 miles away. Maybe I can hide here and not go anywhere else. Yi Fan pondered. Ji Changkong's death shook the entire region. Everyone was shocked. In less than a year, 3 grand elders of the Ji family had died in battle. It was comparable to a raging sea, a violent storm. This wasn't the Dark Age in ancient history. There weren't any terrifying upheavals, but the important figures of the Ji family were dying one after another. It was truly shocking. Forget about the Peacock King and the Crow Daoist. Thousands of years ago, with just a stomp of their feet, the entire southern region would be shaken. However, where did this youth, Yi Fan, come from? He actually did such a shocking thing, killing the grand elders of the Ji family. This was unbelievable. All the cultivators in this region were shocked. This was a huge matter, the anger of the Ji family would probably spread throughout the world. Ji Changkong was burned to death. It was done by a youth who only cultivated the Sea of Reincarnation's secret realm. The Grand Elder of the Ji family was burned to death. The person who did this was a 14 or 15-year-old cultivator, but he caused the death of an important figure. This is unbelievable. Ji Changkong, who had dominated the southern region for so many years, was burned to death by a youth called Yi Fan, turning into ashes. This is simply a fantasy. An important figure of the Ji family was burned to death. His reputation turned to dust. Everyone was discussing. The news spread throughout the region. Everyone felt that it was inconceivable. Of course, most of them were shocked. The 5-elemental true fire could burn everything. As long as one was within the 5 elements, there was no power that could resist it. Many cultivators were terrified. Ji Changkong dying to the 5-colored flame could only be said to be fate. Even an important figure would find it hard to resist such a flame and turn to ashes. Yi Fan having a special characteristic was no longer a secret. This matter spread out and caused him endless trouble. Not only the Ji family, even the Holy Land would be looking for him. Of course, this wasn't the worst thing. The worst thing was that the source of the qi of all things would be exposed. This was a treasure that many cultivators coveted. Right now, he was only at the Nirvana realm. It was impossible for him to be like the Peacock King, sweeping across the land and looking down on the southern region. Him having such a cauldron was a great disaster. Although he burned the supreme elder of the Ji family to death and shocked the southern region, after people understood the details, they found out that it wasn't his own power. He relied on the 5-elemental true fire. Yi Fan had a treasure on him, but his cultivation wasn't that high. Naturally, many people coveted him. Many people were preparing to take action and search for his whereabouts. Kill. This was the order from the Ji family to kill. For a small cultivator, this had never happened in thousands of years. If other forces wanted to search for Yi Fan, they could only act in secret. Now, no one dared to anger the Ji family. At this critical moment, whoever touched them would die without a burial. This region was in great turmoil, great waves surging. Yi Fan didn't go south. He hid in a mountain range 1,000 miles away from the Yaoguang Holy Land. He thought that the Ji family wouldn't come here to search for him. After all, this was the doorstep of the Yaoguang Holy Land. He was wrong. The Ji family was unfathomable. They had unimaginable knowledge about opening the realm gate, carving the Tao patterns, and traveling through the void. Based on the broken altar, the consumed energy, and the time when the realm gate was opened, they were able to guess how many miles Yi Fan had traveled. On that day, the void was opened. The realm gate appeared above the scorched land. More than 100 cultivators walked out. Among them, there were more than 20 elders, and the rest were young elites. Some were as calm as mountains. Their auras were heavy and unfathomable. Some were like sharp swords. They were full of murderous intent. More than 100 cultivators were all powerful. Not to mention those famous figures, even those young cultivators had great backgrounds. Almost half of the 10 strongest young cultivators of the Ji family were here. This scorched land must have been caused by the shattering of the void. That bastard didn't die. An elder gave an order. He told everyone to spread out and search. If they found any clues, they were to report it immediately. This was only the first group of people. There were more cultivators coming. If the Crow Daoist didn't show up to provoke the Ji family, there would have been powerful figures coming to kill Yi Fan. The Ji family was powerful. They sent out messages and locked down all the places. They wanted to trap Yi Fan in this area. Yi Fan didn't think that he would see the people of the Ji family flying above the mountains in the middle of the night. How did they find this place? Of course, he didn't know that the Ji family had calculated everything using the realm gate. Yi Fan felt that something was wrong. He flew through the night, but he was shocked to find out that the Ji family had locked down this area. A large number of cultivators were searching for him. 2 days later, Yi Fan's whereabouts were exposed. He was discovered by the Ji family. The clan of the ancients sure is unfathomable. They can even calculate where the void collapsed. Yi Fan exclaimed. He wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would be in even more danger if he alerted the wavering light's sacred ground. If it weren't for his supreme movement technique, he wouldn't have been able to survive after being discovered. Even so, he couldn't get rid of them. 5 days later, he took a roundabout route and entered a grassland. He was thousands of miles away from the wavering light's sacred ground. The people of the Ji family seemed to have locked onto him. They chased him all the way and couldn't get rid of him. On the 6th day, he finally encountered the young disciples of the Ji family. After a bloody battle, he used the cauldron to kill his way out. On the 8th day, in the depths of the grassland, a tall man blocked his way. This man looked to be in his 20s. His hair was as black as ink, and his eyes were as sharp as knives. His skin was bronze in color, his body was strong, and his aura was heavy. "Who are you?" Since he dared to chase him alone, he must have something special about him. Yi Fan didn't dare to underestimate him. "Ji Haiyue." The tall man's voice was powerful like a bell. "Never heard of you. That's because you don't know much." Behind him, more than 10 people walked out from the dense grassland. In the young generation of the Ji family, there are 3 people who have cultivated to the 3rd secret realm. 5th brother Haiyue is one of them. Yi Fan's heart jumped. Even the legendary figures had only cultivated to the 3rd secret realm. Those who had this level of cultivation in the young generation were all extraordinary figures. In the southern region, they could be counted on one hand. As far as he knew, there were only a dozen people in this area. The Ji family had 3, and the wavering light's sacred ground had around 3 as well. There were also Hua Yunfei, Li Yuyu, and a few others. "Your 5 elemental true fire has been used up. You don't have anything else to rely on. Let's see how you escape." Ji Haiyue was tall and strong. His eyes were as sharp as lightning as he blocked in front of him. The corner of Yi Fan's mouth curled up and he revealed a smile. He directly flew into the sky. He didn't want to fight them head-on. He wasn't surrounded, so there was no need to fight. However, when he flew into the sky, Yi Fan felt a gray haze. A strange power trapped him and forced him back to the ground. He knew that he was in trouble. This place had been set up by someone. They had carved Tao patterns and condensed the power of the earth veins to lock him here. Ji Haiyue sneered, "Don't waste your energy. The moment you stepped into this place, you were destined to die." As he said this, he took a step forward. However, he didn't continue to press forward. The Ji family's supreme elder had learned a lesson. Everyone was fearful. A large flag rushed out of Ji Haiyue's body and appeared in the sky. It was as black as ink and misty. It seemed to have a demonic nature that wanted to suck one's mind in. A heavenly laughter entered Yi Fan's ears. Someone secretly transmitted their voice to him. "Little brother Yi, do you need my help?" Yi Fan immediately frowned. This was the voice of the wavering light saintess. In the end, she had still attracted the wavering light's sacred ground. "If you want to help me, kill this Ji Haiyue first." Yi Fan replied. "That's easy for you to say. He's only second to Ji Haiyue and Ji Biyue. Before Ji Ziyue grew up, he was the 3rd strongest in the younger generation of the Ji family." The saintess' voice was sweet. No one knew where she was. She said, "If I kill him, I will have great karma with the Ji family. However, I have other ways to take you away. Don't you want to go to the northern region? I have the same intention. We can travel together." "Sure, I'd be happy to," Yi Fan replied. In such a situation, someone was willing to help him. Although he knew that the saintess was not to be trifled with, he had to get through this hurdle first. The saintess' laughter was like a silver bell, making people feel like a spring breeze. Her words were very soft. She said, "I need to prepare. You can stop Ji Haiyue first." Chapter 172. Yi Fan knew that this was an excuse. Yao Guang's saintess did not want to act immediately. It was hard to say whether she would save him or not. Her motive was definitely not pure. She was most likely interested in his physique and cauldron. The huge flag in the sky became more and more terrifying. It was terrifyingly black, covering the sky and blocking the sun. Yi Fan hurriedly took out his cauldron and suspended it above his head to protect him. Walala! That black banner fluttered in the wind. Black mist surged and dark clouds surged. An enormous pressure poured down like mercury. Yi Fan's body felt like it was going to split apart. If he hadn't taken out the cauldron first, he might have already met with misfortune. Yi Fan used the 5 elemental true fire to burn the important figures of the Ji clan to death. This made Ji Haiyue feel apprehensive and did not dare to go all out. Humph. Ji Haiyue snorted. He was not willing to take the risk. If the other party still had the 5 elemental true fire and burned his flag, it would be an irreparable loss. At this moment, his expression was solemn. Behind him was a vast expanse of whiteness. Endless ice and snow appeared in the air. The bone-chilling cold air was like knives that rushed over. Phenomenon. Yi Fan was shocked. The Ji clan was indeed powerful. Another disciple of the younger generation had cultivated a phenomenon. The pure white snow connected to the sky. The color of the snow was boundless. The bone-chilling cold wind whistled out. Ji Haiyue stood in a world of ice and snow like an ice god. Snow dance under the heavens. Ji Haiyue shouted. The phenomenon he condensed had an unfathomable power that pressed forward. In this region, goose feather-like snowflakes fluttered and covered the sky. It was a vast expanse of whiteness with no end. Every snowflake was the size of a palm. Cold light shot out in all directions. The sparkling and translucent snowflakes were as sharp as swords. They swept towards Yi Fan. Clang, clang, clang. Clanging sounds came from the sky. Millions of snowflakes danced in the air, wanting to tear the sky apart. They completely covered this area. Yi Fan's heart trembled. The cauldron above his head quickly enlarged. The myriad source chi circulated and blocked him below. If you don't have the 5 elemental true fire, do you really think that you, a cultivator in the sea of reincarnation, can stop me? Ji Haiyue's expression was cold. She stood high in the sky like a god walking out of the ice age. She shouted, "Ice river seals the heavens." The world of ice and snow behind him rushed out of endless white mist, rushing towards Yi Fan like a tsunami. Boom! The grassland was shaking, all of the vegetation quickly withering, and then shattering. Even those rocks couldn't escape, instantly freezing and cracking, and then collapsing. The terrifying cold current destroyed everything in its path. Nothing could stop it. Large fissures appeared on the grassland and extended into the distance. It looked incomparably terrifying. Anything that was in the way of the fissures would be turned into powder. Everything was frozen, everything was frozen. The snow-colored world replaced the exuberant vitality. Beauty from the Yaoguang Holy Land, what are you waiting for? Yi Fan said to her secretly. An intoxicating and sweet laughter was heard. Little brother Yi, you have to persevere. I'm still preparing. Yi Fan understood that the other party did not want to make a move at all. Everything was just an excuse. Rumble. The white mist rushed in front of him like an ocean, terrifying like a tsunami. Everything around Yi Fan was instantly turned into ashes. Bang! In the blink of an eye, Yi Fan was enveloped by the endless white mist and was instantly sealed in ice. A cold and firm statue appeared there. Sparkling and translucent, a huge block of ice sealed him. The cauldron floated up and down, unaffected. It hung above the ice statue. Even a legendary figure who cultivated to the 3rd secret realm can only die with regret after being sealed in ice. It's hard to prolong his life. He wants to compete with Brother Haiyue. If he doesn't have the 5 elemental true fire, he's nothing. A few people behind Ji Haiyue came forward and surrounded the huge block of ice to observe. This little bastard was arrogant for a while, but in the end, he still can't escape death. What a pity. The seniors of my G family were burned to death by him. It's not worth it. Brother Hyue's ice and snow phenomenon is indeed unfathomable. He was killed the moment he attacked. I wonder if the great soul-searching art can find that supreme footwork. His soul hasn't been destroyed yet. I know what I'm doing. When Ji Hyue said this, he stretched out his hand and grabbed at the cauldron. However, his expression suddenly changed. He quickly retreated and shouted, "Retreat!" Boom! The huge block of ice suddenly cracked. Cold air wreaked havoc. Yi Fan broke out of the ice. He didn't make any unnecessary movements and directly shook the cauldron above his head. Bang! 3 G family members died instantly. They were crushed to dust by the cauldron's power, leaving only a bit of blood mist floating in the air. Yi Fan was very regretful. He had purposely been sealed in ice in order to lure everyone closer and use the cauldron made from the myriad source qi to shake them all to death. He didn't expect Ji Hyue to be so sharp. He instantly sensed the abnormality and shouted for everyone to retreat. In the end, he only killed 3 people. This brat is indeed despicable. It's just as Grand Ancestor Ji Hui said, the dozen or so people's expressions were all gloomy. They secretly clenched their teeth. In such a situation where they were certain to win, they actually let the other party kill 3 of them. It was truly humiliating. Your physique is indeed special. You can actually resist my ice and snow phenomenon. Ji Hyue's expression was calm. He didn't have any excessive emotional fluctuations. Didn't Ji Hyue tell you? I can even block his divine body phenomenon, let alone your ice and snow phenomenon. Yi Fan's words weren't false. His body was very special. When faced with a phenomenon, it would automatically circulate a strange power to resist the external phenomenon. It was as though it couldn't be blasphemed. He took out a green branch from the pristine jade bottle. This was the leaf of the holy fruit's mother plant. Now that there wasn't much divine spring left, he began to eat the holy leaf bud to replenish his divine power. Every time he activated the cauldron, it would consume a large amount of divine power. If he didn't have these things, it would be very difficult for him to hold on. Ji Hyue's expression immediately darkened. Are you saying that any phenomenon is useless against you? Then let me try. Boom! In that white world of ice and snow, exuberant vitality suddenly appeared. A jade tree that was vigorous like a young dragon rushed out and froze everyone on the spot. At this moment, time seemed to have stopped. There was no white snow, no ice mountain, only a jade tree. However, it froze this space. Qi! In the blink of an eye, it rushed in front of Yi Fan's sea of reincarnation and was about to break through. This unforeseen event also shocked Yi Fan. This kind of phenomenon was indeed strange. After the ice and snow reached their limit, it could actually seal space. It was unheard of. Suddenly, the green lotus in Yi Fan's sea of reincarnation trembled slightly. Mist curled around it as though an indescribable strange power was surging out. Bang! That jade tree that froze space instantly shattered in front of Yi Fan. It turned into specks of broken light and disappeared. Ji Hyue's body shook violently. He couldn't help but take a step back. In his world of ice and snow, that jade tree reappeared, but it was a little dimmer. How is this possible? He was full of disbelief and said, "Is your physique really able to naturally restrain all kinds of strange phenomena?" At this time, the others regained their freedom. Their hearts palpitated. They were frozen on the spot just now and felt waves of terrifying strange power. This really surprises me. The sacred body of the ancients is getting me more and more interested. The Yaoguang Saintess's pleasant voice once again reached Yi Fan's ears. Ji Hyue's expression was cold as he said, "I will use my true strength to kill you." Although he was only in his 20s, his strength was comparable to that of a legendary figure. His absolute combat power was enough to destroy Yi Fan. He felt humiliated to be in such a stalemate with a Nirvana realm cultivator. Whoosh! The black flag fluttered, covering the sky and suppressing Yifan. Boom! The ground suddenly collapsed. This kind of absolute pressure was something that Yifan couldn't withstand. The cauldron protected him as he fell into the crack in the ground. The flag fluttered. Every time it shook, the ground would collapse. Almost in an instant, Yifan was suppressed dozens of meters into the ground. If it wasn't for his cauldron, which was refined from the chi of all creation, he would have been reduced to ashes by now. It would be difficult for him to withstand this kind of power. They were in different realms and separated by a natural chasm. His divine power seemed insignificant when facing a powerhouse who had cultivated 3 secret realms. Yifan kept stuffing the buds of the sacred tree into his mouth to replenish his divine power and to activate the chi of all creation to resist. Without these 2 things, his body and soul would have been destroyed immediately. Beauty from the holy land of Yaoguang, if you don't make a move now, when will you? Do you want to carry my dead body back? Yifan secretly transmitted his voice. There's no hurry. I think little brother Yi can still hold on. I still need some time to prepare. The Yaoguang saintess's delicate voice came. Damn you. Yifan really wanted to curse out these 4 words. In the end, he changed the topic and said, I say, my wife, if you don't make a move now, your husband will die and I won't be able to go to the holy land of Yaoguang to propose. The Yaoguang saintess was not angry. Her voice was magnetic and very bewitching. She said, hold on for a while, sister will go save you, clang. At this moment, Ji Haiyue's face was cold. She raised her right hand and then chopped downwards. A huge ice sword rushed out from her right arm and directly split the ground. It pressed down towards Yifan. Crack. All the bones in his body were shaking. Although the cauldron blocked everything, the pressure was too great. His powerful physical body was about to collapse. There was still some 5-element true fire in the cauldron. Yifan really wanted to use it, but considering that he still had to face the Yaoguang saintess, he didn't act rashly. Yaoguang saintess, if you don't make a move now, I will give this cauldron to the Ji clan. After transmitting his voice, Yifan shouted, Ji Haiyue, I will give you the chi of all creation. Boom! At this moment, the heaven and earth seemed to be torn apart by someone. A powerful divine power suddenly broke in and completely shattered the Tao patterns that Ji Haiyue had laid down. Everything became clear again. A human figure completely formed from light held a huge sword and slashed. The Ji clan's disciples were like scarecrows that couldn't withstand a single blow. They were killed with each sword. Clouds of bloody mist bloomed in the sky. It didn't look like a long sword anymore. It was more like the thunder god's hammer. It was extremely heavy. When it landed, one person would definitely be crushed. No matter what kind of magical treasure it was, it couldn't stop it. Almost in an instant, the dozen or so Ji clan's disciples were all killed. Not a single one could escape. Ji Haiyue's eyes were about to pop. He couldn't save them in time. It was too fast. It was so fast that before he could rush over, everything was over. Walala. He held the flag in his hand and waved it fiercely. Immediately, wind and thunder filled the sky. Clouds appeared and disappeared. The earth was shaking. Ji Haiyue was furious. She rushed over and fought with the human figure formed from light. The palm of the void, the great technique of the void, and other secret techniques were all used. They almost broke the heaven and earth. Yifan's heart trembled. Cultivators who had cultivated to the 3rd secret realm were indeed terrifying. He felt a sense of urgency. He had to become stronger. Even though there were only a dozen or so young people like this in this area, they still put a lot of pressure on him. At this moment, the general trend formed by the earth veins had been broken. It could no longer stop Yifan from leaving. He used a mysterious footwork and disappeared into the horizon. Not long after, he had rushed out more than 100 miles. Little brother Yi, you truly have no conscience. For the sake of saving you, I fought with my life on the line. yet you ran away without a trace, ignoring me. Yao Guang Holy Lady's voice was sweet. She appeared in the distance, blocking his path. She was like a lotus that had just bloomed. Her skin was crystal clear and her black hair danced in the wind. Her eyes were like black gems and her eyebrows were curved. When she frowned slightly, she looked very charming. Her clothes fluttered and her dress danced, outlining the curves of her proud body. She had a devilish figure that could charm all living things. However, her body shone with a holy light. She was extremely sexy and there was a halo around her. She was half angel and half witch. It was an illusion. I didn't want to be a burden to you, so I left first. Didn't you catch up? Yi Fan felt suspicious. He said, that shadow just now it's a god of the Holy Ji Palace. What do you think? You should be able to fool Ji Haiyue after displaying that sword technique, right? The saintess smiled sweetly. She did not have any makeup on, but she was more beautiful than a flower. She made people understand what it meant to be extremely charming and what it meant to be able to topple cities with a smile. Her beauty was extremely alluring. Just at this moment, a beam of divine light rushed over from the distant sky. Her beauty was restrained, and a clear appearance appeared. She was actually very similar to the Alcade Saintess, but she was wearing armor that flickered with silver light. The cold light of the metal armor made her look even more beautiful, and she had a different kind of temperament. Whoosh! The god disappeared into her chest, leaving behind only a bit of divine power. She was nowhere to be seen. After getting rid of Ji Haiyue, he was stopped by the saintess. Yi Fan felt even more troubled. This woman was extraordinary and difficult to deal with. Do you have any way to get rid of the Ji clan? There are hundreds of powerful cultivators looking for me on this grassland. The saintess smiled and said, come with me. I promise you that you will be safe. Yi Fan frowned. He did not want to go to the Yaoguang Holy Land, but this beautiful woman was very powerful. It would be difficult for him to get rid of her. Little brother Yi, don't worry. I am not going to the Yaoguang Holy Land. I will be sent to the northern region. We can travel together then. Her red lips were moist and sexy. She smiled and said, let's leave this grassland first. Yi Fan did not say much. He followed her and came to a barren land. There was a dilapidated palace. The saintess walked in lightly and then waved at Yi Fan. She said, I have repaired the space gate here. It can teleport us tens of thousands of miles away. We can get rid of the Ji clan quickly. We are not going to the Yaoguang Holy Land? I will not lie to you. Definitely not. Yi Fan carefully observed the patterns. They were indeed not going to the Yaoguang Holy Land. There was no better choice. In order to get rid of the Ji clan, he decided to take the risk and stood on the Mystic Jade platform. After the source was placed, light shot into the sky and a powerful wave of energy spread out. The space gate opened and the sky cracked. The two walked in. However, the two were a bit far away. They were both afraid and didn't want to get too close. Not long after, the endless darkness disappeared and light appeared in front of them. They successfully crossed the sky and appeared in a pure land filled with flowers and birds. The stream was gurgling, the plants were fragrant, and the mountains were green and the water was clear. Pavilions were dotted between the mountains and rivers. It was quiet and natural. This is one of my residences. It is 30,000 miles away from that area. You can rest assured. Rest assured? Yi Fan thought to himself. He looked around and was ready to escape at any time. He felt that the saintess was difficult to deal with. Little brother Yi, I have shown you enough sincerity. You don't have to be on guard against me. The saintess combed her hair and smiled. I don't want your source of chi of all things. I just want to see your sacred body of the ancients and see what's so special about it. Yi Fan did not see her as a female bodhisattva. Although she was called the saintess, she acted more like a witch. She really wanted to deal with him now. However, it was better than being surrounded by the Ji clan in front of the grassland. He still had a chance at the moment, but it was hard to say who would win. My physique is terrible. It's called a useless body now. What's there to see? Yi Fan did not want her to look at his body. Little brother Yi, you are too modest. The sacred body of the ancients contains a big secret. Although I can't cultivate for countless years, the Holy Land has never given up. If I find you, I will definitely take you in. The saintess smiled charmingly and said, I won't give you to the Holy Land for them to study. I just want to see for myself what's so mysterious about you. Yi Fan looked at her beautiful and crystal clear face and said, what if I don't agree? Then I will have to trouble you for a while. I will let you sleep and see for yourself. The saintess's hair danced in the wind. Her slender neck was white and soft, which was very attractive. You set up a pattern here and condense the power of the mountains and rivers. Are you trying to seal me here? Yi Fan looked around at the beautiful landscape. The saintess's eyelashes fluttered. She glanced at him with a mesmerizing look and said, don't think of me as a bad person. Why would I do this to you? Yi Fan was about to take out the cauldron to protect himself and then fly away. He did not want to continue to be entangled with this seductive saintess. You. At that moment, he was shocked. The divine power in his body was heavy and could not circulate smoothly. It was difficult for him to take out the cauldron. He shouted, what did you do? The saintess let out a bell-like laugh and said, it seems that you wanted to kill me just now and wanted to use your divine power. You must have felt the change in your body. Yi Fan stared at her without saying a word. When you and Ji Haiyue were fighting, I accidentally spilled some of the fairy sealing powder. It was refined by the great supreme elder of my Yaoguang school for decades. It is said that if the dosage is enough, it can completely seal the divine power of a mighty figure. The Yaoguang saintess smiled faintly and said, I'm doing this because I don't want to have any conflicts with you. Otherwise, if we fight, I might accidentally kill you. Wouldn't that be too boring? Okay, you are ruthless enough. Yi Fan slowly walked forward. The saintess smiled sweetly and said, I know that little brother Ye's physical body is as strong as a great treasure. Don't waste your energy. Don't get too close to me. Her butt was round, her waist was slender, and her breasts were round. Her neck was beautiful, and her face was peerless. At this moment, she moved her body and retreated lightly. Her smile was especially gentle and charming. Yi Fan was so angry that his teeth were itching. He estimated the distance and found that it was indeed a bit far. This saintess was too cautious. It was at this moment that he focused his mind. The golden lake between his eyebrows trembled, and his divine sense materialized and shot forward in attack. Ah, you, the saintess screamed in fear. Her beautiful face showed that she was in pain and she was about to fall. Yi Fan dashed forward quickly and his powerful consciousness did not stop attacking. He was as fast as lightning and arrived before the saintess in just a second. He leaped up and pushed the saintess onto the grass. However, the saintess only screamed in fear at the beginning. She was not dispirited at all. The space between her eyebrows also shone with dazzling light. At this moment, she opened her eyes and looked at Yi Fan. At the same time, her soft body emitted a terrifying god's energy. Even though her sea of consciousness was not hurt, she could not be distracted. Yi Fan's consciousness was too terrifying and almost suppressed her. Yi Fan felt that he could not hold this wonderful body any longer. Her soft body had an ocean-like god's energy that was about to blow him away. His consciousness did not stop attacking. The golden lake between his eyebrows was as dazzling as the sun. At the same time, he used a psychological attack and bit down. A refreshing fragrance came. He bit the saintess's ear and did not let go. As expected, the saintess was embarrassed and angry at the same time. The light between her eyebrows rippled. Yi Fan used his consciousness to attack. Chapter 173. Yao Guang's saintess screamed. Her delicate ear was bitten by the snow-white teeth. Not only was it painful, but it also made her feel ashamed. Her soul consciousness became unstable. The light between her eyebrows dimmed. Yi Fan's soul consciousness was like a sword. It turned into a golden light beam and slashed at Yao Guangsanus's consciousness ocean. At the same time, he tried to suppress her body to avoid being blown away. Whoosh! A diamond mark appeared between Yao Guangsanus's eyebrows. It was like a fairy breaking out of the water. It shot out beams of colorful light and blocked the golden light beam. Yi Fan was surprised. Yao Guangsanus's soul consciousness was so powerful that it was beyond his expectation. Her soul consciousness was almost as strong as his. He focused his soul consciousness and urged the power of his consciousness ocean. The golden lake was bubbling. Golden energy kept flowing out like water waves. It formed a sword in the air and dashed toward the diamond mark. The two of them were entangled. They could feel each other's temperature. Below them, Yao Guangsanus was like a warm jade. Her soft and slender body shone with colorful light. She almost knocked Yi Fan away several times. Yi Fan had the upper hand in terms of soul consciousness. Even though Yao Guangsanus was powerful, she couldn't compete with him. The golden lake was as deep as an abyss. Soul consciousness kept flowing out. At first, it was like a small stream. Then, it became like a long river. Yao Guangsanus's face turned pale. Her beautiful face was full of surprise. The diamond mark on her forehead was fading and being suppressed. At this moment, she decided to take a risk. She gathered her thoughts and the divine power in her body boiled. A god's will rushed out of the holy Ji palace and was ready to attack Yi Fan. Because she was distracted for a moment, she became more passive in the battle of soul consciousness. Yi Fan almost attacked her consciousness ocean. Her body trembled. The golden light beam moved forward quickly. Yao Guangsanus was shocked. She shouted. Colorful light flowed in her consciousness ocean. The diamond mark glowed again. At the same time, the god that rushed out of the holy Ji palace was completely clear. She took a step forward. She was covered in silver metal armor that shone brilliantly, making people feel like a goddess had descended to the world. Her beautiful black hair and snow-like body, set off by the silver armor, gave her an indescribable temperament. She had the charm of a witch, but also the holiness of a goddess. The two different temperaments blended together, and from different angles, she gave off a different feeling. She looked exactly the same as the Yao Guangsanus, but at this moment, she seemed a little lost. Although her eyes were beautiful, they lacked some spirit. Yes, the real Yao Guangsanus was fighting against Yi Fan. The gods will formed by the holy Ji palace did not have any divine consciousness to guide it, so it could only stand there quietly. Kill! The Yao Guangsanus snorted. She took the risk and forcefully separated a strand of her spirit to enter the deity's spirit. At this moment, Yi Fan's spiritual consciousness burned like a flame, surging forward, directly making the diamond-shaped mark dim. In a short moment, he had arrived in front of the door of the Yao Guangsanus consciousness and was about to attack. At the same time, the black hair of the deity was flying in the air, and her silver armor was shining. Her beautiful face suddenly became lively, and her eyes were full of spirit. However, her movements were still a little stiff. Her body's potential hadn't been fully recovered. Clang! She pulled out the magical sword hanging on her waist and held it in her hand. It was as bright as autumn water. She raised it high like a goddess descending to the mortal world. It was as if she was going to kill the devil with holy light flowing around her. Swoosh! The deity waved the sword and slashed at Yi Fan, trying to cut him in half. At the same time, Yi Fan's spiritual consciousness finally attacked the Yao Guangsanus consciousness, sending some light into her. Both of them were very decisive. Yao Guangsanus wanted to destroy his physical body, erase his physical form, and then kill him. Yi Fan, on the other hand, wanted to destroy her sea of consciousness, destroy her divine sense, and crush her soul, thus killing her. Clang! The divine sword radiating light in all directions emitted a bone-piercing chill as it chopped down. Yi Fan's spiritual consciousness was sharp. He carried the Yao Guangsanus and rolled away quickly. The sword slashed a 10-meter deep crack on the grassland. It wasn't hard to imagine how terrifying this sword was. If it hit her body, the consequences would be unimaginable. He bit the Yaoguang Saintess's crystal ear and didn't want to let go. The two entangled and rolled away for more than 10 meters. The only good thing was that this deity was slow. Only a strand of spiritual consciousness had entered her body, so it couldn't use all of its power. Ah! The Yaoguang Saintess screamed in fear. Her consciousness was broken, and the golden light flowed in like a river. Yifan urged his most powerful spiritual energy, trying to crush the Yaoguang Saintess's spiritual consciousness and turn the deity outside into a rootless flower. This was a holy world of consciousness with rolling clouds and mist. The Yaoguang Saintess was standing in front of him, elegant and graceful. In this world of consciousness, time seemed to have stopped. She pretended to be calm and said, "I didn't expect your spiritual consciousness to be so powerful." Yifan didn't have time to waste. There was a killing god outside. He rushed forward. "Little brother Yi, you can't kill me." The Yaoguang Saintess's expression turned cold. She ran away quickly and appeared in the sky of the world of consciousness. The golden light shot up into the sky and closed in. In an instant, it was in front of her. "My spiritual consciousness is my most powerful trump card. I didn't expect yours to be even more terrifying than mine," the Yaoguang Saintess said while flying. Yifan didn't answer. His golden spiritual consciousness turned into a big hand and slapped. Pfft! The Yaoguang Saintess's celestial body became blurry. She was injured. She moved faster and sank into the depths of the sea of consciousness. Clang, clang, clang. The golden light turned into hundreds of sword lights and shot out like a meteor shower, trying to crush the Yaoguang Saintess. Swoosh! At this moment, the beautiful figure disappeared into the clouds. At the same time, Yifan felt a sense of danger. In the sky above the sea of consciousness, the clouds and mist floated. A huge palace appeared and pressed towards him. Its aura was majestic like a star field. It was hard to resist. What is going on? Yifan was shocked. The opponent's spiritual consciousness was obviously not as powerful as his. How could she use such a terrifying power? The Yaoguang Saintess's laughter came. She stood in the huge palace like a fairy from the Jade Lake. Her clothes fluttered in the wind and she was extremely beautiful. She was surrounded by clouds and mist. "Little brother Yi, no matter how cunning you are, you will die today. Don't worry, I will bury you well." Yifan tried his best to retreat but found that he couldn't leave this space. The huge palace had completely sealed this place. "Why is it like this?" He was really shocked and said, "Why is there a palace in your sea of consciousness?" The palace in the sky was like the moon palace. It was covered by the moonlight and looked very hazy. It made the Yaoguang Saintess look very beautiful. "This is a secret treasure I found in an abandoned ancient cave in the Yaoguang Holy Land when I was young. It is called Moon Palace. Its power is hard to estimate." The Alcade saintly goddess's image was no different from a real person. Her skin was white as snow, and her cheeks were soft and delicate. She said, "Since the moment I got it, it went into the space between my eyebrows. After more than 10 years, it nurtured my soul consciousness to an extremely powerful level. I didn't think that I would be suppressed by your spiritual consciousness after meeting you today. This is really surprising. Moon Palace, in the forehead, and it can nurture your spiritual consciousness?" Yifan was shocked. This was definitely a great treasure. "So, you didn't die in vain. I will send little brother Yi on his way." The Yaoguang Saintess was shining with a holy light. When she smiled, she looked very charming like a beautiful woman. The Moon Palace was like the Moon Palace. The moonlight spread out like water. It slowly pressed down. Everything below it would disappear soon. Yifan's spiritual consciousness was like a flickering candle that could be extinguished at any time. "Wait a minute." Yifan shouted, "Beauty from the Yaoguang Holy Land, I still don't know your name, Yao Shi." The Yaoguang saintess opened her red lips and uttered these two words. However, she didn't stop there. The huge moon palace continued to press down. In this spiritual consciousness space, time was eternal. It was hard for people to feel the passage of time. Yi Fan was shocked. He was afraid that this was all caused by the moon palace. He used all his strength to rush out. In the outside world, the golden lake between his eyebrows suddenly dimmed. Then, it turned into a golden sun and rushed out. Swoosh! It immediately entered Yaoshi's forehead. This spiritual consciousness space shook violently. Crack! The sealed space was torn apart. Yi Fan's two spiritual consciousnesses merged into one. He dodged the moon palace that was pressing down from the sky and reappeared in the distant sky. The Yaoguang saintess frowned. She had failed at the last moment. She was very unwilling. Yi Fan stopped in the distant sky. He didn't retreat immediately. Suddenly, he laughed and said, "I understand now. That moon palace can only float up and down to fix the surrounding area. You can't take it out. No wonder you lured me there. Even so, what can you do?" Yaoshi sneered. She looked calm and calm. "My spiritual consciousness is in the moon palace. You can't do anything to me." "Indeed." Yi Fan nodded and then laughed. "I will block your spiritual consciousness here. I will send a strand of my spiritual consciousness to worship the heaven and earth with you. Let's see if you can stay calm then." "You." The Yaoguang saintess couldn't stay calm anymore. "I'm going." Yi Fan laughed. He sent out a strand of his spiritual consciousness and said, "To the bridal room." The moon palace was fixed in between Yaoshi's brows. Time seemed to have stopped inside. When Yi Fan rushed out, only a moment had passed in the outside world. The strand of spiritual consciousness returned to his forehead. His corporeal body immediately regained its senses. At this moment, he was still biting that delicate and beautiful ear. The fragrance that resembled an orchid wafted into his nostrils. Chi! Not far away, that deity slashed again with his sword. Yi Fan quickly jumped up and retreated with the Yaoguang saintess. That deity's movements were slow, but it was still a great threat. At this moment, he blocked the Yaoguang saintess's spiritual consciousness between her brows so that her spiritual consciousness couldn't rush out. Even though this soft celestial body was surging with divine power, it was no longer a threat to him. "Yaoguang saintess, if you don't come out, we will enter the bridal room." Yi Fan laughed. Even though his divine power was sealed, his corporeal body was still very strong. He ran like the wind and the deity behind him couldn't catch up. Bang! Yi Fan punched out with all his might, hitting the flesh in his arms, but he was unable to break it. Surprisingly, a star map appeared on the Yaoguang saintess's body. It looked like the armor of a deity as it emitted mysterious lights. He was shocked and felt that this woman wasn't simple at all. Boom! The space between Yaoshi's brows was filled with divine light. She tried her best to break out as she didn't want to be trapped inside. She was afraid that Yi Fan would mess around. Although her spiritual consciousness couldn't rush out, she could feel everything outside. A little bit of her spiritual consciousness entered her body. She screamed in fear, "What are you doing?" "I'm measuring for you." Yi Fan laughed. "Bastard." Yi Fan held the Yaoguang saintess in his arms and ran fast. The deity behind him moved slowly so he got rid of him quickly. One of his arms was wrapped around Yaoshi's slim waist. He felt her softness while his other hand moved randomly. He teased, "Your body is so light and slender. I didn't know that some parts of you are so well developed." "You." The Yaoguang saintess almost fainted from anger. "You are well developed where you should be well developed and slender where you should be slender. I can't help but admire you. If I throw you into the crowd, I think many men will go crazy for you." Yi Fan bit her earlobe and said, "If you want to deal with me, you should be prepared to pay the price." Yaoshi's jade-like body shone with light, soft and alluring. Her fragrant body smelled like orchids. Her slender neck was as white as jade, shining with light. Her beautiful hair floated on Yi Fan's face like a spring breeze. Yi Fan, I'm going to kill you. I'll give you two choices. One is to let me control the soul consciousness. The other is to enter the bridal room. Yi Fan's hand circled her slim waist while his other hand moved randomly. He laughed. Make your decision. Chapter 174. Yao Guang Saintess was half a demon and half an angel. She had an unparalleled charm. Although she was very charming, she was surrounded by holy light and had a special aura. She had a beauty that could captivate even the birds and beasts, and a beauty that could outshine the moon and put flowers to shame. Coupled with this almost contradictory temperament, it made her look like she could turn all living things upside down and was extremely charming. I won't choose any of them. Yao Shi's black gem-like eyes shot out two beams of light. She looked ethereal. Although she had only sent out a few beams of soul consciousness, she still showed her intimidating competence. Yi Fan revealed a cold smile. The small gold lake in his glabella sent out another beam of soul consciousness towards Yao Guang Saintess. He wanted to erase those beams of soul consciousness. Unless your soul consciousness stays in the Moon Palace forever, I will kill every beam that comes out. The gold light was like quicksilver pouring on the ground. It swept through every inch of space and captured Yao Guang Saintess's soul consciousness. At the same time, he tightened his arms to suppress Yao Guang Saintess's soft body to resist her powerful god power. Swoosh! Yao Shi's soul consciousness was extinguished immediately. She wanted to hide, but the light in her eyes dimmed. You can't escape! Yi Fan shouted. Then, the gold light was so dazzling that it swept over instantly. Yao Guang Saintess screamed in fear. Her beams of soul consciousness were sealed and destroyed on the spot. Yi Fan, you dare to do this to me? Yao Guang Saintess was so cold. Her soul consciousness sent out from her glabella. Her soul consciousness was as cold as the snow in the wind. I will ask you one more time. What will you choose? Yi Fan held Yao Guang Saintess and walked across a stone bridge to a pavilion. Aren't you afraid that the Yao Guang Holy Land will destroy your body and soul? Yao Guang Saintess hissed. I only know that if I don't control you, I can't escape death. You have done this to me. What else can I hold back? I won't have any scruples. Yi Fan sat on a stone stool in the pavilion and held her slim waist. How can we reach another agreement? The Yao Guang Saintess was truly afraid. Normally, everything was under her control, and she was calm and composed. However, at this moment, she felt uneasy. What kind of agreement? Release the tiger back to the mountain, leave behind future trouble, so that you can come and kill me in the future? Yi Fan sneered and said, I have even killed the grand elder of the Ji family. I have offended such a huge family. Why should I be afraid of another Yao Guang Holy Land? Are you determined to get rid of me? Yao Guang Saintess's divine sense fluctuated. I won't kill you. Let me control my divine sense. I think we can get along very well. Yi Fan exerted a little force and let the soft body sit on his lap. The Yao Guang Saintess shrieked, Yi Fan, don't go too far. I let you control the spiritual awareness, so you can do whatever you want. Yi Fan's lips curled into a smile. I won't go back on my word. I will do what I say because I actually just want to live. You forced me to do all of this. He reached out his other hand and stroked the Yao Guang Saintess's body. Instantly, she screamed. Yi Fan, you, stop. Yao Guang Saintess's divine sense went back into her body. She could feel everything clearly. When his hand stroked her body, she had goosebumps all over her body. She said coldly, your conditions are too harsh. If I am not harsh, how can I live? Yi Fan lifted Yao Shi's chin and said with a faint smile, you are as pretty as a flower and as beautiful as jade. I can't help but want to love you. If you don't make a decision now, let's go to the bridal room. It won't be unfair for me to have you. You, shameless. Yao Shi was furious. The Yao Guang Saintess was so noble in the southern region. No matter where she went, she would attract everyone's attention. Many people looked up to her. However, Yi Fan said it wouldn't be unfair for him to have her. Yi Fan's smile grew bigger. He stroked her smooth cheek and said, "Make a decision now." Yao Guang Saintess's skin was as smooth as silk. It was as warm and clear as jade. She was like a pearl that could move people's hearts. She had an incomparable charm. "I can't agree to any of your conditions." Yao Shi's divine sense surged violently. Yi Fan smiled and said, "Good, good, good. I think you are choosing the second condition. If so, let's go to the bridal room." Yao Guang Saintess screamed. Her black hair danced in the wind. She looked like a fallen angel descending to the mortal world. Her eyes were misty. Her divine sense rushed out and she wanted to use her secret technique to kill Yi Fan. At the same time, her body was surrounded by multicolored light. She looked like a beautiful jade with strange lights and surging god power. Yi Fan sent out a few divine senses and attacked Yao Guang Saintess' divine sense. At the same time, he swung his fists at Yao Guang Saintess's body. Bang! His powerful body couldn't break Yao Shi's celestial body just like last time. His invincible fists were blocked by the light. Bang, bang. His fists could break spirit treasures, but they couldn't kill her. On the surface of Yao Guang Saintess's body, there was a mysterious star map. It was faintly discernible and blocked the fists. It was a strange scene. The star map was bright and shiny. At the same time, it felt deep as if there was a real star region covering Yao Shi's body. What is this? Yi Fan was confused. He kept punching but couldn't break it. The star map was like the battle armor of a god. It was misty and holy and blocked his fists. "Yi Fan, we can actually sit down and talk," Yao Guang Saintess said. She was covered in light and starlight kept flowing around her. Yi Fan ignored her and directly destroyed several strands of her divine consciousness, leaving only one strand for her to use sound transmission. "This is the battle armor of the Yao Guang Holy Land. You can never break it. The battle armor of the Saintess. I don't need to break it. I just need to take off the other layer." Yi Fan directly tore off a part of Yao Guang Saintess's sleeve. "You." Yao Guang Saintess was enraged by his words. She was even more frightened by his actions. "I think it will be easier to take off the other layer than to break the Saintess battle armor." Yi Fan's actions were gentle but firm. Rip. Another part of her sleeve was torn. It fluttered outside the pavilion like a butterfly. Yi Fan held Yao Guang Saintess with one hand and moved the other hand calmly as if he was about to open a treasure box and appreciate the treasure. "You." Yao Guang Saintess was indeed scared. She said in a trembling voice, "Stop." Rip. Her sleeve fell down like flowers falling to the ground. Her jade arm was exposed. It was white like lotus root coming out of water. It was warm like white jade. The curve was soft and beautiful. It could be said to be a magnificent work of art. This jade-like arm was spotlessly white and flawless with specks of luster. It could be said to have flesh of ice and bones of jade, bewitching one's mind. "So perfect," Yi Fan commented in a gentle voice. However, in Yao Guang Saintess's ears, it was like the sound of swords and knives. Her emotions were fluctuating violently. This was something she had never imagined. "Yi Fan, do you know what you are doing?" She tried to speak calmly. "Of course I know. I am appreciating the naked arm of a beautiful woman. Unfortunately, there is no wine or food. Otherwise, I would enjoy it." "You." Seeing him being so proud, Yao Guang Saintess was even more ashamed and angry. Yi Fan reached out his hand and slid it over her arm. He felt the softness and crystal. He said, "You are a feast for the eyes. I don't need wine or food. Yao Guang Saintess alone is enough." "You. Don't mess around." Yao Guang Saintess looked nervous. She used to be so charming and sexy. However, at this moment, she was anxious. She didn't look charming at all. Don't worry. I won't mess around. Yi Fan smiled and said, I am always serious when I do things. Speaking to this point, he looked at it seriously and carefully. With a ripping sound, he tore off the other sleeve. The other jade arm also flickered with a hazy luster, with specks of light circulating. Yi Fan. I said I will be serious. Don't worry. Then, he paused and said, no wonder people say that the world is what I want, and so are the beauties. The beautiful body is right in front of me. I love the world more than the beauties. You, bastard. Yao Guang Saintess was about to go crazy. At this moment, she was sitting on Yi Fan's lap with her arms exposed. Her soft and beautiful body was in intimate contact with him. She could feel Yi Fan's warmth. She was so angry. Yi Fan held her waist and turned her back to him. His fingers moved gently. Her clothes were like flowers, drawing a beautiful path and floating to the side. Her white back was crystal clear. Her soft skin had a layer of red. She was very close to Yi Fan. She was right in front of him. Her fragrance was like that of an orchid. Yao Guang Saintess was like a demonic woman usually. However, in this situation, she couldn't let go of herself. She was so embarrassed. Yi Fan. You. Yao Guang Saintess' voice was shaking. Tearing. Another sound. Her clothes fell. Yao Guang Saintess' back was exposed. Her jade-like skin was crystal clear and full of luster. It was like a perfect work of art. You have to understand that I am the only saintess of the Yaoguang Holy Land. If you go too far, you will not be able to take it back. Yaoguang Saintess had her back to Yi Fan. She was sitting on his lap. Her jade-like skin could feel his breath on her back. I will move forward. I don't need to take it back. Speaking of this, Yi Fan smiled and said, I remember a saying in my hometown. Are you a beast or worse than a beast? You are worse than a beast. Yao Guang Saintess shouted, but her voice was shaking. If I don't do anything, people will say that I am worse than a beast. If I do something, I will just be called a beast. Yi Fan shook his head and smiled. It seems like it can be used everywhere. You, don't worry. I am doing it seriously. Yi Fan replied. His eyes were crystal clear. He didn't look intoxicated at all. His fingers touched her jade-like skin and said, I will follow your advice. I can't be worse than a beast. His fingers moved on her jade-like skin. The warmth and softness were transmitted from his fingertips to his heart. However, he was very clear-headed. Tearing. Yi Fan tore off the front of Yaoguang Saintess's clothes and threw them to the sky. His hands moved to the front of Yaoguang Saintess. His hands were warm, but his eyes were brighter. Suddenly, his murderous intent shot up to the sky. Right at this moment, Yao Guang Saintess was no longer nervous. She was no longer shaking. She was calm. Her entire body was cold. Heavenly light rushed out of her ocean of consciousness. I have been waiting for you to come out. The golden lake between Yi Fan's eyebrows transformed into a sun and shrouded the area in front of him. I knew you were acting. Yao Guang Saintess, you still don't have a chance. Yi Fan's spiritual consciousness turned into a golden heavenly sword. It kept slashing and smashing the heavenly light into pieces. I thought you would come out at the last moment. I didn't expect that you still can't let go. Although Yao Guang Saintess' spiritual consciousness was blocked, her expression was cold. Her beautiful face showed no emotion. Her powerful spiritual consciousness fought against Yi Fan. She wanted to break through the golden sun. Yi Fan sneered. His hands circled around her naked upper body. He was moving around recklessly. I told you, I have been serious. Yi Fan sneered. You really think I am greedy for your beauty? Let go of me. Yao Guang Saintess felt it. Her skin turned pink. She was so embarrassed. Of course, I don't mind doing some wonderful things with you. Yi Fan's voice was calm. His spiritual consciousness was like a burning fire. He covered Yao Shi's spiritual consciousness and said, "If I can control your spiritual consciousness, I will spare your life. Stop resisting." Chapter 175. Yi Fan hugged Yao Guang's saintess and felt her warmth. It seemed very intimate, but his consciousness was like a cold wind sweeping up the snow with endless murderous intent. This was a battle of consciousnesses. The golden sun turned into flames and covered Yao Shi's consciousness. It burned and wanted to turn it into ashes. Although the two of them spoke very nicely, when they started fighting, they both wanted to kill each other. Yao Guang's saintess moaned in pain. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 strands of her consciousness were melted away. Yao Guang's saintess, you don't have half a chance. Yi Fan approached her step by step. At the same time, his hands circled around her jade-like body and moved around randomly. His hands were warm and soft, disturbing Yao Shi's mind. She was ashamed and angry, and her consciousness could not be focused. However, at this moment, Yi Fan suddenly felt great danger. Yao Guang's saintess smiled sweetly. She was very charming and charming. "Little man, go to hell." Her words were very gentle like the spring breeze and gentle water. However, her murderous intent made people's hearts palpitate. After Yi Fan crushed more than 10 strands of consciousness, he was shocked to find that the innermost consciousness core released a dazzling light like the sun had exploded. Bang! It really did break apart. The divine will shattered like a burning nebula. Terrifying fluctuations surged out from the most primitive point, quickly destroying everything in the surroundings. Although Yi Fan's consciousness was powerful, it was immediately wounded. He did not expect Yao Shi to be so decisive. She shattered the consciousness at the last moment and wanted to perish together with him. He truly felt the threat of death. His consciousness rushed in all directions to avoid the center of the storm. However, everything was too sudden. Even though he was prepared, his consciousness was still shaken. Boom! Yi Fan almost fainted. The powerful golden blazing sun was broken into several pieces and almost extinguished, making him feel a wave of weakness. The only thing that made him happy was that the origin of his consciousness was not damaged. After resting for a while, everything could be restored. The golden consciousness quickly rushed together and became a blazing sun again. However, it was much dimmer than before and was no longer as dazzling. Yao Guang's saintess. Yi Fan's voice was cold as he shook the soft body in his arms. At this moment, Yao Shi's upper body was naked, like a beautiful piece of jade, a perfect work of art, but she didn't move at all. He really died just like that? Yi Fan was bewildered. Just now, it was extremely dangerous and he almost died. Could it be that the other party really shattered his divine sense and completely no longer existed in this world? Yao Guang's saintess, I don't believe that you're dead. Yi Fan's lips curled up into a cold smile. His large hands grabbed onto her breasts and moved about randomly. However, the Yao Guang's saintess did not react at all when her holy land was desecrated. Yi Fan couldn't be sure. He moved his hands around her body and slapped her continuously. However, he realized that her divine power was slowly calming down and almost extinguishing. Her jade-like body was no longer soft, about to become ice-cold and rigid. Her entire body truly lacked vitality, life fluctuations gradually coming to a stop. Whoosh! Yi Fan took off her dress, revealing her alluring body to the air. Her skin was like ice and her bones were like jade, perfect and flawless, causing people to sigh in admiration. The other party still did not react. She was like a jade statue, not moving at all as she sat quietly on his lap. Yi Fan sent out a strand of his divine sense into the depths of Yao Shi's sea of consciousness. He really didn't believe that she would die just like that. Boom! At this moment, a majestic pressure pressed down on him. The moon palace shook and fell down, pressing down on his divine sense. I knew you weren't dead. Yi Fan's divine sense quickly retreated. I didn't expect that I would not be able to kill you even after I used up a large amount of my divine sense and the puppet core that I refined for many years. The Yaoguang saintess expression was solemn as she said, "The strength of your divine sense has exceeded my expectations." Yi Fan was shocked. Just now, his source of consciousness was almost shattered. He didn't know what other tricks this Yaoguang saintess was hiding. Fortunately, he was clear-headed. "Yao Shi, what else do you have to rely on? If not, then I won't be polite." In the outside world, his finger moved on this jade-like body. In the sea of consciousness, the Yaoguang saintess expression changed. She sensed all this and said coldly, "Since it is like this, let's die together." Her divine sense started to burn. The moon palace shook continuously and slowly flew out, pressing down on Yi Fan. "Burn my divine sense and take out the moon palace to shatter your sea of consciousness." Yao Shi shouted. Seeing that she was really going to die together, Yi Fan decisively retreated. His divine sense rushed out and blocked the space between her eyebrows. "You want to come out? That's impossible. Even if you burn your divine sense, I won't let you take out the moon palace." Yi Fan used his divine sense to seal the space between her eyebrows, preventing her from rushing out. Boom! The Yaoguang saintess sea of consciousness trembled. She was preparing for a life and death attack. "If you continue to attack, then don't blame me for being impolite." Yi Fan moved around on her body and said, "Let me see how different the so-called saintess is." The Yaoguang saintess was startled and angry. The thing she was most afraid of had finally happened. Yi Fan was really going to mess around. His fingers slid gently and every inch of this celestial body was touched. She was warm and moist in his hands. The fragrance of orchids assailed his nostrils. Other than the last hurdle, the Yaoguang saintess jade body was no longer a secret to him. "If you don't compromise, I really don't mind some wonderful things happening." Yi Fan paused and said, "Now, I will give you a third choice. Recite the ancient scripture from the Yaoguang Holy Land." He knew that if he made this request in the beginning, she would definitely refuse. However, at this desperate moment, if he gave Yao Shi some hope, she might compromise. However, the result was out of Yi Fan's expectation. The Yaoguang saintess didn't even think and said, "Don't even think about it." She knew very well that at this point, compromising would only benefit the other for nothing. So, she decisively refused. "If that's the case, then let some wonderful things happen." Yi Fan hugged the Yaoguang saintess and was no longer polite. His hands ate heartily. Then, he stood up and placed her on the stone table in the pavilion. At this moment, there was only one step left. Yao Shi's snow-white body was right in front of him, and all the secrets were laid bare in front of him. The Yaoguang saintess had a jade-like body. Her lines were beautiful, outlining her soul-stirring figure. At this moment, there was nothing left. She was flawless and crystal clear, enough to enchant all living beings. Long eyelashes, black gem-like eyes, jade-like cheeks, slender neck, plump twin peaks, slender waist, perfectly round buttocks, slender and straight jade-like legs. Any man who saw her would have their blood pumping. The Yaoguang saintess was originally high up and surrounded by endless halos. No matter where she went, she would always be the center of attention. Many men had to look up to her. However, at this moment, she was placed on the stone table naked. It was unimaginable. If this news got out, it would definitely shake the entire southern domain. Many people would lose sleep and find it hard to accept. Yi Fan was extremely calm. He stood in front of the stone table and didn't move immediately. He just looked at her calmly. Even though the Yaoguang saintess was like a demoness, at this critical juncture, she couldn't ignore it. She said with a trembling voice, "Since it's like this, let's shatter together." Hong. She ignited her spiritual sense, making the lunar palace tremble. A rhombus-shaped bloody mark appeared between her brows. It seemed to have cracked. Yao Shi didn't care about the price. In the end, she still activated the lunar palace. The lunar palace was like a mountain. It was incomparably majestic and couldn't be blocked at all. In the end, you still made this kind of decision. You didn't care about the price, wanting me to take you down with me. Unfortunately, I won't die. Yi Fan drifted backwards. Since he couldn't kill the other party, then he would let her kill herself. As for the so-called beauty, he couldn't care less about it right now. Originally, he was just trying to survive. He created a path of life. Everything he did was just a reflection of his methods. Yao Guang's saintess, what a pity. I will burn a few pieces of paper for you. In the blink of an eye, Yi Fan retreated several dozen meters. The lunar palace shattered the pavilion and floated in the air. Yao Shi's spiritual sense burned and enveloped the perfect body. However, Yi Fan's smile froze. Yao Guang's saintess laughed coldly. Although my spiritual sense has been burned, I have left a bit of the origin in the lunar palace. It will recover soon. You can't restrain me now. Hong. At this moment, an even more terrifying energy fluctuation came. It was even more terrifying than when Yao Shi burned her spiritual sense. A destructive aura covered the sky. A beautiful goddess in silver armor stood not far from the mysterious jade platform. It was the deity that Yao Guang's saintess had transformed into in the palace. No! Yao Guang's saintess screamed. Yi Fan's expression also changed completely. That deity was powerless to stop Yi Fan. She found this place and saw him desecrating Yao Guang's saintess. She opened the space gate and then broke the jade platform, shattering the void. Yao Guang's saintess had tried her best and was about to escape. She didn't expect the deity she had transformed into would use such a method. There was a very short time difference between the two. But the result was completely different. The terrible consequences were unpredictable. Yi Fan cursed and ran for his life. His divine power was sealed and he didn't have the cauldron to protect him. After the void was shattered, he couldn't resist such a destructive force. While running, he waved Yao Guang's saintess's bra and said, Yao Shi, if you can survive, you can use the ancient scriptures from the Yao Guang Holy Land to exchange for this bra. I will take your life in the future. Yao Guang's saintess's naked body sparkled under the sunlight. She was extremely beautiful. I will wait for you. If you don't come, I will auction it to the world. Ha ha ha. Yi Fan laughed. The two attacked each other and used their own methods to escape. In this region, the void was completely shattered, completely erupting, berserk and devastating in all directions. Boom! Boom! The shattering of the void represented the collapse of the real world. Except for the powerful cultivators, no cultivators could resist this kind of power. If they were caught in it, they would be smashed into powder. Yi Fan couldn't use his divine power. Even though he was fast, he still couldn't avoid the aftershocks. It wasn't the area where the void was shattered. It was just a little bit of aftershock from the outer area, but it still sent him flying. At this moment, even his powerful body couldn't bear it. His body made cracking noises as he flew hundreds of meters away and fell into the mountain stream. Yao Guang's saintess was in a worse situation. She had only escaped to the edge when she was shrouded by the destructive force behind her. She screamed.